Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this other edition of your favorite news magazine program, 90 Minutes in Africa, coming to you from my media prime, the African Eye. We are broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Boh Elvis at the microphone for presentation, alongside my guests who are already in the studio for us to talk about how to use the truth for the liberation of our continent, Africa, how to use the truth for the liberation of our continent, Africa. And before we talk about this topic, we are going to use some few minutes to get to Nigeria and talk with our correspondent about the situation in the country following primaries. As you know, Nigeria has already has an idea of who is going to represent the various political parties in the 2023 presidential elections. We have Tinubu for the APC, and we have Atiku for the PDP, and then we have Obi for the Peter Obi for the Labour Party, and so many other, Sowore for the Youth Party, and so many others there in Nigeria who want to get to the helm of the state as President of the Republic to replace His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. We are going to be talking about, of course, just briefly, because we are organizing another panel in future during which we are going to bring on board Nigerians and other political analysts to talk about the situation in the country, what Nigeria needs to be able to what is needed to be able to fix Nigeria, which is Africa's most populous nation. And of course, in the first part of the program, still in news analysis, we are going to analyze a little bit the speech of Belgian King Philip, who recently, just a few days back, expressed deep regret for abuses committed during the colonization of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our analysts here in the studio are going to give us some analysis as far as that is concerned, as well as analysis to reactions to relating to the attack on a Catholic church last week during the Feast of Pentecost. You know, we're going to get some analysis from our guests in the studio on these various topics before we dive into the main topic of the day, which is how to use the truth for the liberation of our beloved continent, Africa. My guests already in the studio. Sheikh Mohammed Ngubong, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We were supposed to have this program last week, but unfortunately we had, fortunately, of course, we had a live program. We're covering the coronation of a chief in the Southwest. And so, of course, as you know, it was news we had to cover on our channel. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
It is always a pleasure to serve Africans and my fellow brothers and sisters of planet Earth, or planet Terra.
And here on my left, we have Ndiwum Emmanuel, Mr. Slow and Steady Facts, who is, as you know, a household name on my media prime, the rising panelist sought after across the continent. Ndiwum Emmanuel, you are coming in today in a different capacity. I heard that you've launched a civil society organization, New Era Youth for Africa.
Thank you very much, Boh Elvis, and I reaffirm my commitment and my love for the program 90 Minutes in Africa. I also reaffirm my stand to serve Africa as an African. And to say that I am coming in today in a new capacity as the co-founder and as the SG of NEA, that is New Era Youth for Africa. We have seen all what Africa has been going through, and we took steps behind. We came together, we thought that we should serve Africa. So we are going to serve humanity in another dimension, living out politics, living out other aspects of life. In this capacity, I want to greet those who are watching us from Ouagadougou, those who are watching us from Accra, Cairo, Abidjan, and to tell them that they should be getting set to receive us in their countries, because New Era Youth for Africa is not a Cameroonian phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that has to go across the whole of Africa. So we have to serve humanity in this life. Thanks for renewing the confidence once more.
Thank you, Ndiwum Emmanuel. Kediah Malangfe is coming in today as a political analyst. Thank you so much, Kediah Malangfe. He is, as you know, also a communicator with the ruling party in Cameroon, the CPDM. But of course, he comes to 90 Minutes in Africa not on behalf of the CPDM, although his party authorizes him to come, but he is coming as political analyst. Thank you, Kediah Malangfe, for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here. Greetings to you. Greetings to my co-panelists. Greetings to all those back home that have taken their time to sit in front of their TV screen to watch us as we give our own views with issues regarding our continent. Greeting to all parts of Africa that are facing crisis from the north to the south, east, and west of the continent. Permit me to greet a special woman, Ophil Melo, the rector of the University of Ngaoundéré. This woman has really improved female and promote female education at that part of the country. Where a university where she went to, we have about 25% of the students were just female. And now as we talk, we have more than 70% being female in that institution. I thank her for promoting female education in that part of the Sahel region. Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And of course, one of the panelists today is Franklin Dzenchung. I think those are the names. Dzenchung. Is that how?
It's always a complicated name to pronounce because people have the tendencies of addressing it like a Chinese name. I don't want to go into the details of that, but that's not why we are here. It's an honor to be in the midst of all these great minds, and in as much as I might be the novice that I am, I hope to be of a great impact in our midst. I hope that we would exchange fruitful ideas, and the message we will take back home will be more of positive remarks. That notwithstanding, Africa is our home. Africa is where we all emerge from, and it's always been like a dream for us, for me personally, to serve humanity. And if we can serve humanity in various forms, then I am very pleased to be at the service of humanity, be it intellectual or physical or in any other way. It's always a dream for me.
Thank you, Franklin Dzenchung. As you know, 90 Minutes in Africa is a platform that brings together all people of all walks of life. Wherever you find yourself in the continent, you can join us. You see the number on the screen, you join us. I mean, even new speakers are welcome because, as you know, Franklin is coming in the program today for the first time. He has been participating in other programs, but he's coming to 90 Minutes in Africa for the first time. This shows that we are open right here because, as you know, there are some times that Mr. Slow and Steady Facts will be busy. There are times that Sheikh, Mohammed, Ngubong will be busy, and we need fresh minds to come and talk. I mean, wherever you find yourself, you just write to us and it will be our pleasure to bring you on board. Of course, you can also join our WhatsApp group, which is a group of intellectuals. Those that are in the studio here are going to attest to the fact that if you join our WhatsApp group, it's more like, it's as if you are in an amphitheater because you are going to find people from across the continent giving in facts and figures that you can't imagine, and also a very great source of information. Sheikh Mohammed Ngubong, before we get into the topics, I want you to talk about the trip to Mecca. I mean, what's up with the trip to Mecca with lots of controversies about the price of tickets, and also too, I want to know whether it is a responsibility of governments across Africa to subsidize religious trips to Mecca, and what is the importance of such trips to the African continent?
Okay, the pilgrimage to Mecca is the 5th pillar of Islam, which is recommended to Muslims who are able to have the means at least once in their lives. It has been customary that the state has been subsidizing to a certain extent the cost. But this year in particular, after having stopped the pilgrimage for 2 years because of the so-called pandemic, this year it came out now with a sharp increase in price of over $1 million. So that the pilgrims are now expected to pay nearly 3.3 million, 3,200,000 in order to perform the pilgrimage. And of course, many people who had prepared much less than that, thinking that was going to be around the 2 million level, like the previous years, were kind of disappointed. The Saudi authorities also decided to limit the number of pilgrims to 1 million instead of the usual 2-point-something million pilgrims. And of course, the person who went and negotiated all these prices was the Minister of Territorial Administration
of Cameroon.
Cameroon.
You're talking about Cameroon's case.
And that didn't please some people in the Muslim community who thought that such a thing should be undertaken by Muslims. And some people are blaming the government for the high cost. But I prefer to take a different view. Now, let us consider what the pilgrimage is for. The pilgrimage is a spiritual endeavor which is designed to bring people spiritual upliftment. In other words, to bring unity across the world, across races and tribes and everything. Humility, because everybody who is there, whether you're president or whatever, you wear the same dress and carry out the same ritual. Now, and many other factors which remind us of our history and our heritage. Great prophets like Abraham and so on, and what their wives did are repeated during this pilgrimage, and that brings, supposed to bring spiritual upliftment. Now, it is not supposed to be an exercise which brings money to anybody, not even the Saudi state, and that is where my contention is. Saudi Arabia already produces nearly 11 million barrels of petroleum a day, aside many other things. And it is a religious recommendation which has been validated for many other things like gold, diamonds, and so on, that if any treasure is found in the ground and you get it out without transforming, without having to do any kind of processing, sell it, you have to give 1/5 of that amount as obligatory alms, which is called in Islam zakat. Now that is practiced on all other things like gold and everything. But for some reason, the scholars who have been appointed and paid by the crown in Saudi Arabia decided to interpret these things in such a way as to exempt petroleum. So that means that the Muslim community in that country and in the world as large are losing something which could have been used for charity. They are losing 2.2 million barrels, the equivalent of 2.2 million barrels of petroleum a day. That, I think, is a manipulation of knowledge. Because you see, knowledge can be reinterpreted to satisfy certain groups and not others. We have a great example in the history of medicine in America. In the beginning, medical doctors were those who practiced whole healing, allopathic medicine, plant medicine, and everything around the 18th century. Then came somebody called Rockefeller, with the help of his friend who was in the steel industry, who decided to give a very generous, in quotes, grant and created an organization to manage education in America. He dished out $100 million, which was a lot of money in the 18th century. And through that, he was now able to determine what the syllabus of medical schools would be. And in the process, he ended up creating or manufacturing doctors today who are just there to serve the international pharmaceutical mafia. In the process, many doctors were locked up. And we have a situation here where knowledge has been transformed or changed in order to satisfy the interests of Rockefeller, who would produce pharmaceuticals from petroleum and thus make the patent, produce fertilizers from petroleum and make the patent, and make money for himself. So by interpreting things in such a way as to enable the Saudi authorities to pocket the equivalent of 2.2 million barrels of petroleum a day, they are transforming and deforming the interpretation of knowledge in such a way as to please themselves.
So what's your suggestion to that?
It's not my suggestion. Many people, many countries, including Iran and others in history, have asked that the management of the pilgrimage should not be based on one state or one country. Those holy sites do not belong to the Saudi people. It's a Muslim thing which belongs to all the Muslims in the world. So we should internationalize. In other words, the holy sites should be managed by the Muslim countries as a whole. Muslims from all over the world should manage it, and it should not be something for a private venture to build hotels and start. When you consider how much money has to go just to the Saudi government out of the 3.3 million the Cameroonians will pay on all pilgrims, is something like 1 million francs times 1 million pilgrims. That's 1,000 billion. Now, that is already a very substantial proportion of the Cameroonian budget, which they are going to get in a few years. In the meantime, the pilgrimage is not supposed to be something to be handled by private venture to bring in capital. In other words, even the hotels, which are giving out rooms at exorbitant prices, even the transportation, which people have to pay to go to the various sites, which are exorbitant. Those things were supposed to have been services which were made at the disposal of pilgrims for them to carry out their pilgrimage. So, as to the problem that they're accusing the Cameroon, no, I don't think that the Cameroon government is to be accused in any way. The idea of a Muslim, that a Muslim should take handle, that is a good idea. But even then, the Muslim who is supposed to go and negotiate these things should be carefully chosen. Because some people in the world, the Muslim world is not exempt from that. Many Africans have been shipified to try to become copies of someone else. So some of them want to become copies of Americans or French or whatever. So too do you have some Muslims who want to be copies of Arabs. And if you have such a person going there to negotiate, he's going to look at somebody whom he thinks speaks the language of God, because some of them have that impression that the God's language is the Arabic language. Such a person will not be negotiating anything. He'll be going to take orders.
Thank you, Sheikh. Of course, thank you for that introductory remark. Of course, I think probably we are going to see with our national news teams to see how we can organize a special talk on that. Thank you so much for what you've just said. Ndiwum Emmanuel, Mr. Slow and Steady Facts, the Secretary General and co-founder of New Era Youth for Africa. I want you to react on the news coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo during the visit of King Philip, who has expressed deep regrets for abuses committed during the colonization of the DR Congo. Let me read some of the things he said. I mean, just a quote of what he said. He said, King Philip, "This colonial regime was one of unequal relations, unjustifiable in itself, marked by paternalism, discrimination, and racism. On the occasion of my first trip to the DR Congo, right in front of the Congolese people and those who still suffer today, I wish to reaffirm my deepest regrets for those wounds of the past." That's from the King of Belgium. Are those regrets enough? Is it enough to express his deepest regrets after all what happened during the colonial era?
To say that they're enough, there will be some kind of intellectual dishonesty in it. I picked out two words from what you read there: racism and discrimination. And I know after 90 Minutes is watched not only in Africa, but across the board, across the globe. When he comes out to regret, to apologize, I want to ask him this question if he's watching this program. Has racism been put to rest? Has discrimination been put to rest? Now, you discover that he was referring to the olden days racism and olden days discrimination. But we are in a modern day racism and modern day discrimination. Let's make an anecdote that is not up to a year or half a year old, relating to what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. You saw that those who were struggling to run away from Ukraine, who were in black color, even pregnant women, were asked to stay, so that those who had white color boarded the buses, run away for their safety, because they still believe that a black man is still a second-class being. You saw how the treatment that was given to those who were in black color in this same Ukraine. I mean, it is an aberration to know that in the face of a war, somebody still finds a place suitable and fertile enough in his or her heart to discriminate rather than struggling to save anything humanity. We are talking here about life. So what he was doing, I think he did something, but when you look at it, somehow it's a folklore. Because in that same Congo today, right from the 30th of June 1960, when the Congolese crisis broke out with the Moïse Chombe, the Kasavubos, and the rest, it was under the watchful eyes of the Belgians How many 60-something years later, he comes out to talk about apologizing and regretting. Now, lives were lost in the course of forcefully colonizing Congo. What happens to those lives that were lost? Raw material was well packaged, and it is still packaged from this very Congo back to Belgium. What does he have to say about this? So, in brief, I think he has another agenda that we have to read it not with our naked eyes, but we have to put on scientific goggles to read the handwriting of what is at the back of his mind. I have another reading of it, because if you read at it from at the first phase, you have the reading of a holy man coming to confess to the reverend man of God, but then he has an agenda behind. So I think Africans should read this message with a scientific goggle and not just with our naked eyes.
Thank you, Ndiwum Emmanuel Samori, Secretary General and co-founder of New Era Youths for Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, however you're watching the program, remember this is my media prime, the African Eye. We are on Canal Sat, which is, of course, the French bouquet, watched in French-speaking countries, on channel 309. We are also on Amos 17, which is, of course, like an international satellite that goes right to communities and the hinterlands across Africa. You can also watch us on Amos 17. We also have our own bouquet known as Swecom, which is mostly watched in Cameroon. And of course, online, you can watch us on Facebook using My Media Prime TV and onto YouTube using BT Media Group. And for those who are watching us online and those that are watching us on satellite, you can send messages, as per the theme of the day. How can we use the truth to liberate Africa? Begin to send your messages so that by the time we start the debate or the panel discussion, we are going to read out your own contribution. To say that don't also fail to indicate where you're watching from, especially those on Facebook. Indicate where you're watching from so that we can recognize you in this show. Let me read this latest news coming in from Nigeria as per the church attack last week during the Feast of Pentecost, coming in from the website of the Vanguard, which is a local newspaper in Nigeria. Owu church attack, police, others deny arrest of perpetrators. Police in Ondo State have denied rumors making the round that the suspected terrorists who attacked Onwo Catholic Church have been apprehended. Rumors filtered into town on Thursday evening that the perpetrators of the terror attack were nabbed by the combined team of the Nigerian Army, Amotekun Corps, and other security agents. The news agency of Nigeria recalls that on June 5, terrorists attacked St. Francis Catholic Church, Owolowa Street, Owo, during church service. Kediah Malangfe. Of course, it has really been a very, these past 2 weeks have really been deadly. We are talking here about the attack on the Catholic Church on the Feast of Pentecost, which is the feast during which Christians are supposed to receive the Holy Spirit. They are commemorating the reception of the Holy Spirit in the church, and during such an event, the church is attacked. We also have another attack that happened in the southwest of Cameroon in Mamfe, during which a regional hospital was razed to the ground. So actually, it has really been a bloody week. Yeah, here in West Africa, in West and Central Africa.
You see, the issue happening in Nigeria is just that the Nigerian government does not want to be clear to come out to say it's an issue of Christians and Muslims. If you can remember, it's about a month ago, a young girl was killed in northern Nigeria because of a comment she made in a WhatsApp group belonging to their class in the university, and this girl was burnt and killed. And some few weeks ago, again, we get that in a state in Nigeria, the church is being attacked, but they'll tell us that terrorists. But with investigation, you find out that it's maybe an opposition religion that is doing that. And when we meet such a problem, the Nigerian government is supposed to be very, very mature to be able to manage religion in their country. I just think that a law is supposed to be put in place so that their religion could be managed, so that such issues should not be coming up, because we've been having this over decade and decade in Nigeria. talking about what happened in the country in the CEMAC zone, that a medical hospital was raised down, still goes back to the responsibility of that government of that country, because the country is a sovereign state and all responsibilities lies in the hands of the government. And for such thing not to happen again, the government is supposed to take strict measures to ensure that there is security, especially at those level that guarantees the health of the civilian. Hospitals, we talk about churches that guarantee the spiritual health of citizens. The government is supposed to ensure that there is perfect security there. Even though we also know those that are responsible for such acts, which they believe that they can obtain independence by burning down churches, schools, and hospitals. I've not seen that anywhere except in that part of Africa. You go to Nigeria, where Biafra are fighting for independence, which we've seen Kanu being arrested and the rest. I've not heard that a school was burned, a hospital was burned, or whatsoever. You go to a country like Ghana, when you hear of Togoland struggling for their independence, I've not heard that school houses and the rest have been burned. You go to Ethiopia, where a part of them are having such war. I've not heard that schools, houses, schools, churches, and hospitals, which are sacred places, are being burned. But what we can see when we hear that in a particular area, we start to ask, what is really the agenda? Are they fighting for independence, or are they doing all this to draw the attention of the government? But it's only their spokesperson that can give us correct information.
Based on what you're saying, probably you might give the impression that probably investigations have already been carried out, and those are responsible for the hospital, for the raising the hospital, have already been identified. But that's not yet the case. No investigation has been carried out yet.
You're simply saying that most investigations have not been carried out by the state. There you are 100% correct. No allegation has been carried out by the state from your perspective, but since we believe in the fourth arm of government, which has to do with journalists, and many of them on their news page on the social media have come out to say information reaching that suspected. So we are also looking at that perspective while waiting for formal information to be able to
talk about that. Because in the Anglo-Saxon culture, because we are Anglo-Saxons, because as you know, in the French system, you are guilty. I mean, the Anglo-Saxons, you are guilty, and then you have to prove your innocence. But as you know, in the Anglo-Saxon culture, you are innocent.
I understand what you are saying with regards to the two judicial culture that we do have, like that of the common law that says you are innocent, you're proven guilty, and that of the French section of the country's civil law, which says that you are guilty till proven innocent. We know of all that, but we really boast about this culture, because the fighting over there, I don't know anymore if it is about the culture of the Anglophones or Francophones, where people kill their own brother, rape their own sister, take them for ransom, and the rest, burning of hospital and churches. I don't know if it has any relationship to do with culture. So at that level, I would not really love to go into such debate.
Thank you. We're going to get to Sheikh. Of course, he will have another reading of that. Frank Lindsay, I want you to talk about the situation in Nigeria. I'm talking about the attack on the Owo Catholic Church. I don't know whether I think you should be a Christian. You're a Christian or a Muslim?
I'm definitely a Christian.
Oh, okay, of course you're a Christian. Then I want to get your reading on that. Probably as a Christian, what is your reading of the situation in Nigeria? Is it an attack on the Christian faith in general? How did Christians welcome news of this attack, and what do you think can be done to ensure that such things don't happen again?
Initially, when I got the news about the attack on the church and on Pentecost Sunday, I was like, why such attacks? So humanity has reached a stage where they don't longer fear God to even go inside his house and do certain acts. I don't know why they had to reach that level. Probably it should be of their political discrepancies, or the difference between the Muslims and the Christians within there who are unable to come to a compromise. But I don't think we should have these challenges whereby we should carry our personal egos to overtake the righteous interest. We will not let the general interest be diminished because we have our selfish intentions to protect. No, human is human, and the most important thing in life is human life. So we cannot take that for granted. And talking about that in Nigeria, I'm surprised about the political. Recently, I just discovered that the security is the police. This thing is in such a way that it's not that decentralized. So decision making for local insecurity that has to circulate within the peripheries in Nigeria has to come right from the centralized core in Abuja. That does not encourage fast intervention. In case of, imagine such things has to happen, you have to wait for Abuja to say something before you guys take any action. I think that is one of the major problems the political leaders should take into consideration in the upcoming elections. We cannot let such things prevail.
Thank you, Nze. Probably before we move out of that to launch our topic directly, I wanted to react. The question has just come to my mind. We had COVID-19 that came during the COVID-19 era. I remember before COVID-19 came, it was a norm for Christians and Muslims and all other peoples of other religions to assemble in a house, sing praises to their God, clap hands and dance. And then COVID-19 came, it became even difficult to go to church. And it became even difficult to give a sign of peace, that is people greeting each other with their hand in church because of fear of getting COVID-19. And it comes to a situation whereby churches and mosques are attacked all over the place. Is it not, therefore, can it not be a call or a message? Can there not be a kind of a coded message in it that probably we need to get back to our rooms and worship God in spirit and in truth instead of assembling in buildings?
Well, talking about the advent of COVID-19, you know, this thing came up into our midst in a bizarre way. We truly can't discern and detect where is the origin of the coronavirus and how it came into the system, because they might give you a conception that maybe it's from China and whatsoever, but I look beyond the message and feel that it is some sort of more of a political interest where people are targeting some particular objectives. You see, during the advent of the coronavirus, statistics show that Africa was going to be one of the most affected by this coronavirus, because this distance barrier, this social distancing was not that much respected in Africa. So shockingly to them, we are not that victim as expected. Rather, it is them in their own system that have suffered that much. And you see, that is why I said that's the importance of religion in our society, because to an extent there are certain things that human brain cannot understand. But how do you explain the fact that with coronavirus which came into the system, Africa, which was the least in implementing the social distancing measures, is least affected compared to those who had all the machineries and all the necessary equipments to fight against the coronavirus. They had all the resources, yet we were more safe than them. Look in the way we live in Cameroon or otherwise in Africa. It's like we don't have the corona, is just in the form of a word. So in reality, I believe that we should not be carried away by the advent of this. And I mean, we have already proven to the world that we can live in that situation no matter what. There have been a lot of things that have arrived in Africa. We have had HIV/AIDS, we have had things like Ebola, we have had I cannot name them, but all the time we keep overcoming these things. So I don't feel like there is anything that a human being can do that God cannot do.
Thank you so much, Frankly Dzenchung, for that brilliant analysis. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, how can we use the truth to liberate Africa? That has really been the topic of the day. Oh, but he reminded me. Let us now move to Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, before we move to the topic of the day. Michael Dibie. Michael Dibie is an international news correspondent in Abuja, Nigeria. Michael Dibie, of course, is a former colleague where I used to work before, African News, subsidiary of Euronews. He's a former colleague who is now back in Nigeria and working as an international correspondent there in Abuja. To get an update of the situation in Nigeria after primaries, we hear Bola Tinubu has been elected for the APC. We hear President Atiku has been elected as the flag bearer for the PDP, and Peter Obi as well as Sowore for the other youth party. Michael Dibie, can you give us an update of the situation in Nigeria so that we can analyze a bit? Of course, we are planning a special show on that. We just want to get an update of the situation in Nigeria after the primaries.
Well, as you all know, the much anticipated, much talk about primary for the upcoming presidential election 2023 presidential election in Nigeria has come and gone, and the flag bearer for each of the political parties in Nigeria has been nominated or elected, I beg your pardon. And what we have right now is we in the PDP, that is People Democratic Party, we have Abubakar Atiku as the flag bearer, while APC, the ruling party, has Ahmed Tinubu, and while Labour has Peter Obi. Well, there's some other political parties in Nigeria, but these three candidates are just the three people that most Nigeria are rooting for. They are so confident that one of them will definitely emerge the next president come 2023. Well, it was a tough one, and based on the fact that most political experts were arguing and were against the nomination form, which cost the cost was very high. You remember in APC or Progressive Party, where the form was pegged at 100 million party, a lot of people were against it, and people talked about it for a very long time. But then when the party went ahead and still pegged the nomination party for such an amount, and so many people bought the form. This is in contrast to a PDP, which was lesser, and also the Labour Party. So the stage is is set right now, and a campaign with ahead and still pegged the nomination party for such an amount, and so many people bought the form. This is in contrast to a PDP, which was lesser, and also the Labour Party. So the stage is set right now, and a campaign will soon begin. We now know the flag bearer for each of this party. Well, if you remember very well, a lot of Nigerians do not have a PVC, that is permanent voters card, and INEC has opened on the portal and also extended the date several times. The date closes June 30th this year, and which will enable most Nigerians who do not have voters card to go and register and obtain their permanent voters card. Each of the political parties are urging most people to go and do that, but especially the youth. The Labour Party, where most Nigerians youth are eager to get their own president and make a change this year, is every day urging most youth in Nigeria to go out and register and get their permanent voters card so that we can actually have a change. The atmosphere is somehow tense in most part of the country, Nigeria, as election draws near. You could hear security in one part or the other, but so far so good. We believe this time around Nigerians are ready to bring a change and see a man that could actually turn the country around come 2023.
So much, Michael Debie, who is an international news correspondent based in Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you so much for the updates, and of course we are going to organize a special panel to talk about this presidential election. So we already have some guests that have already indicated that they want to be part of the show, and if you're watching this program wherever you are in Nigeria and you want to be part of this panel, feel free to write us using the number you find on your screen, and we are going to make you part of the panel. I see you want to comment on Nigeria, Kediah. Yes, I see you're really bubbling.
I really follow up these elections in Nigeria, and I remember the former election, which I analyzed it, and the result came out the way I said. Last election, when we had Buhari and Atiku Abubakar. You know, these two guys come from the north, the part of Nigeria, of Muslims that have majority of the voters, and when I analyzed the two of them who was supposed to win, immediately Amadu Buhari got his vice president, someone from the Yoruba land, and Atiku Abubakar got his vice president, someone from the Igbo land. I will not. I'm not bringing out tribalism, but the African politics is centered on that. Unfortunately, the majority of those in the north voted for Buhari, and the Yoruba people voted, and he won. Now we are having this another one coming from. You remember Atiku Abubakar, who has once been vice president, and presently today he's in the part of. He's in the part of the country which voted to join Nigeria during a plebiscite.
The British Northern Cameroon.
Yeah, British Northern Cameroon. He comes from that part. And so he was really loved by Nigerian because he's a successful Igbo man. He was loved by the Igbo people that love business and believe that he has policies that will favor their business.
What are you talking about now? Atiku?
I'm talking about Atiku Abubakar.
Okay.
That comes from British Northern Cameroon, presently Adamawa State in Nigeria. So he was really actually, presently, he's leading that part. Then we have now the former chairman of APC, Tinubu. I hope you know he's the former chairman, and he's just what the correspondent was
from the south.
From the south, and that's just what your correspondent was talking about. That the party there, they decided to sell the cat. If you want to go in for the primary, you need to buy a cat worth 100 million. And that was a problem already, meaning that those that had that capacity but don't have that money could not get that card. And so many of them believe that something has been played around, and he has gotten the card, and now he's the leader because he was the chairman of the party and have the influence to become the candidate. And now we have also a young person that also inspire young people, as your correspondent earlier said, Obi, that is coming up. And however, his party did not permit him to be there because of the money issue. He decided to divert to go to the Labour Party so that he can be able to go in for the election. So now these are the three candidates that we are having in Nigeria.
And there are other parties.
And there are these are the three main. And what I enjoy the most is the aspect of their primary at the level of their political party, which I think many French African countries should learn from them and try to practice. We see that in Europe, we see that in America, and we are seeing it in Nigeria. I believe that most French African political party should be able to take this process where the primary have their election and everybody sees and look at the process. It's transparent. Any party decide who will be their representative, not that they sit in a hotel room and they decide that you will be a candidate, or maybe they sit somewhere in France and decide that you will be the next president. This aspect should be learned and practiced by French African country. Lastly, I would like to talk about the aspect of the visit of the Congolese king to Congo. To be honest with you, as a political scientist, I don't look at that nonsense he said. I better question why he went there, because it is clear that there is no leader that leave Europe and come to an African country without an agenda. Forget all what he's saying. Accord has still been signed. He came there and accord have been signed. They should tell us the type of accord that have been signed in Congo. Then we will know if his visit there is genuine. You cannot come and you apologize and you talk about the era of how the blacks were treated in Congo due to the period of colonization. And you totally forget, we are now at the level of neo-colonialism, where such barbaric acts are still happening. My co-panelist was talking about 1961 over Maurice Twembe and Kasavubu, over a particular territory that is the most richest, that have resources in that country. That is where their problem started. And since then, they have been fighting up to now, and they are even dying. And if you want to know, the population of people that have died during this period of neo-colonialism is more than the population that even died during the period of colonization. So how then you come and apologize about the past, where the present you are still creating a havoc, and your present there in that country is still there to have a barbaric signature, or how resources will be exploited in that country. This is the same thing that happened in Northern Chad when Idriss Déby died and the son took over. The French president went there. Nobody cared to ask what agreement did they have. They don't care. But when they come, they apologize and they say the people of Chad will decide who will be their next president, but they don't say what they have to say. But when they come there, they have their agenda on what they want. Dear African listening to us, when any leader leaves Europe and comes to Africa, question what he is coming to do. What accord are they going to sign behind? Forget what they come and say on TV, very sweet things, putting on good tie, good coat. Ask, what are they coming to sign? Because they'll come, they'll discuss the goal, but you realize that industries exploiting gold mine, doing mining, at the end you realize that the country have about 5 or less than 5% of what is being exploited. I will not want to go and talk about it in one particular country in the Semak zone, because I know Ndiwum will talk about it.
Thank you, Kediah, for for the brilliant analysis, which I really enjoyed. And you, Emmanuel, it's always a pleasure to bring you and Kediah.
I cue from him. I think he's very objective and honest. I think when a white man enters any African country now and speaks to you, don't listen with your ears, listen with your eyes. Because when you listen with your eyes, you read the signs coming. And from the reading of those signs, you'll be able to detect and to deter their evil plans. Look, the white man gives with the left hand and recollects with the right hand. I don't trust anything that he said there. I think the Congolese should be very, very wise, and their eyes should be wide open. The second colonization, or should I say recolonization of Congo, is underway. So please, be wise. I am not stigmatizing the Congolese people. I am giving the message to the whole African continent. And with my country of birth, which has a basket of problems, that's Cameroon inclusive. Because Cameroon is also suffering in the hands of the Chinese. And we see the way sometimes they even beat us up in our own chantiers, where we're supposed to be the ones exhibiting our know-how. You go to École Normale Supérieure, engineer school, you come out, you are a laborer to a technician who is coming from outside. So it's these are little things that we need. Yeah, we need to. I mean, a white prisoner in Africa is better than African. We even give them luxurious hotels to live in, whereas we live in the dungeon. We live on the streets. But then it's time for this new era. Things are going to change, whether they like it or not. The white man very soon will see us as equals.
So how does the new era Youth for Africa intend to change the narrative?
Good. Thank you for that question. I think in the days ahead, when we'll be launching, and permit me to thank the Cameroon government, right from the territorial administration, for legalizing and giving me the order to walk across Africa. When it is good that we should say it. Now, I think in the days ahead, we'll be moving to different African countries. We need to, the African youth need to rise up. We need to start questioning the strengths and the weaknesses of the African Union. Because all of this is because the African Union has been limping like an organization suffering from cerebral malaria. Because a lot of problems in Africa that African Union is supposed to lay a finger on, they have not been doing that. Now, we have to push African Union to realize where they have been lacking. We have to add to what we think that if added to African Union, they could do their job better. And this can only be done when the African youth is emancipated, never to think again that there is a superior human being out of Africa.
Thank you, Ndiwum, Emmanuel, Sheikh. I would like us to just dive directly. We wanted to say something about Nigeria. We just dive into the truth because I know this is the topic you love most. You wanted to say something about Nigeria?
Except that we keep jumping from one topic to another. And it's not very easy for someone following to really know what exactly our direction is.
I understand.
You mentioned something about COVID-19, mentioned something about violence in the church in Nigeria, mentioned something about the Belgian king. Well, in order not to make a long speech on all of these issues, concerning the question of the hospital being taken to the ground, all I can say is people should remember that in every war, the first victim is the truth. In every war, anywhere in this world, the first victim is the truth. Now, concerning the issue of the church in Nigeria and the girl who was killed, religion is a very good thing, which can be a way through which we can go to our Creator. But the Creator himself mentions in the Quran, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ. Everything have we created in pairs. In other words, if you're a medical doctor, you can save a lot of people from illnesses which would have otherwise killed them, but you can also poison someone in such a way in a way which is undetectable by the forensic scientists. If you're a lawyer, you can save innocent people from going to prison, but you can also help a criminal to circumvent the law. Things always have double ways. Religion can lead people to a higher spiritual state. But religion can also be used as a manipulating tool in order to sheepify a population, either to use as a method of intimidation, say, if you don't want to follow what I'm saying, look at what I can do, or as a way even to destabilize and bring down people. So whenever those things happen, we should consider the level of awareness of the population which is concerned. Concerning COVID-19, which was mentioned by one of young contributors, a certain author called Dzenchung wrote a book in 1981. In that book, he forecast that a virus is going to come out of a Chinese city called Wuhan by the end of 2019, which is going to infect people, and people will die from respiratory problems. This is 1981. You have many other predictions. How can that be? It's a very long story. I've mentioned this in some other platforms. Well, all I can say is it is a planned thing. It is something which is planned for another agenda. It has nothing to do, all the issues you mentioned, like AIDS. AIDS spread out in Africa after certain vaccine campaigns were done. And secondly, the so-called source from the monkey, the AIDS virus from the monkey cannot attack human beings. They had to have been manipulated genetically in order to have that happen. Who did that? Again, it's a long story. we had Ebola, which came later. So the narrative has been, AIDS is going to kill all of us. Protect yourself by wearing condoms. And when you go to analyze the condoms, you realize they've been embedded with germs in order to attack the population. Ebola is going to kill all of us. The most recent one is monkeypox. So these things have been planned, and unfortunately for them, it is not working as they wanted. They have other things on the agenda. There was even a plan to bring a fake return of Jesus Christ, which was sabotaged by Putin, who arrested the latest personality called Vissarion in Siberia, who masqueraded as Jesus Christ, who returned, had 5,000 people following him, had an economy without money and so on. They were preparing for the eventual return of the fake Jesus. That again is another long story, just to say that that one has also failed. So right now in the world, we're having a situation where there is a small elite, and that I go now to what my young brothers have been mentioning on the political system. You have a small elite which pulls the strings. They're the ones who decide whether it is the Labour Party or the Conservative Party or whatever is going to win, in order to give the population the illusion of choice. They don't choose anything, can I assure you. It's all manipulated, and that elite now is falling. The elite now, that is why you can see that many people can start, well, how are they falling? It goes back to Antarctica. You see, no, you might laugh, but I ask, in 2016, the Pope visited Antarctica. Why? Surely the Pope didn't go there to pray for the penguins. The Grand Governor of Australia also visited Antarctica. President Obama went there 3 times. Joe Biden himself went there. Now, why did they go to Antarctica? Because some of the sources of power in the world had a base in Antarctica. Those ones have been expelled. It's a very complicated story, which goes even outside planet Earth. So that's why I say that now, in order to summarize all that I think what I've said so far is enough, because there's not enough time to take each one of those topics and begin to go into details. Right?
Okay. Thank you. Of course, we wanted to, first of all, because it's been a long time, people have been asking us to review some of the latest happenings across Africa. So we wanted to, first of all, take the first 30 minutes or 45 minutes to review the news items before we get into the topic now, which we already need. I'm talking about the truth, how to use the truth to liberate Africa, because we cannot be liberating Africa when some of us are dying. Some people are dying in church attacks, others are dying in other related things. So Sheikh Mohammed Ngubong, we are now in our topic.
Right.
One of the lies that many Africans have been told is that many of them have been made to believe that Africans are naturally inferior and best suited for slavery, a lie that was raised in the 18th century by the 18th century political and intellectual class, whereby there's kind of racial stereotyping of Africa, which was also later magnified to make us believe that we are inferior, and we look at ourselves maybe as the devils and look at the other race as the angels, and we are depicted as the devils, we are blacklisted, and so on and so forth. I wanted to lay emphasis on that.
When you say we are blacklisted, you're already making yourself a victim of the brainwashing. Because why didn't you say we were whitelisted? That is because of the conditioning which has got even into the language we speak. Now, that is a very interesting topic which I'd like to, not to continue to complain about discrimination and so on and so forth. That will all go on. Britain recently decided to make an arrangement to send back immigrants. They've recently again decided that you cannot go and study in the British University unless you come up from one of 50 universities recognized in the world, and inside these 50 universities there's no African university. The best African university according to their list is in South Africa, which is the 180th university. So all the signs are there that somehow we are being repelled from different areas. But why should we keep thinking that our salvation and our progress depends on others? That is where we come in. Now, I'd like to say a few things about the black race, which is very far away from the stereotype they've tried to make us have. The black race, it has been demonstrated recently that the intellectual and the spiritual capability of the black race is higher than the rest of the world because of the presence of melanin in the brain. Sometimes they don't call it melanin, they say serotonin or whatever, it's just a deformation. The black race is the original race on planet Earth. You will find the oldest human skeleton is one which was found in China, 100,000 years old, and it was found to have African Negro features. Coming back to Mexico, very ancient skulls, which are not skulls, statues, they're called the Olmec Man, found there in Mexico, had signs of African physiology. And many skeletons in caves in some states in America were found to have African. Even in Britain, the Cheddar Man, which was found in a cave in Britain, dated 10,000 years old, was found to be black. So the black race first is the original race on Earth. And you're going to find that where the black race is, you're going to find a lot of natural worth. Why? Because we are the only one who vibrate at the same frequency of planet Earth. That is something mystical. You see, the global elite which controls the world, they do it by making the world to manifest what they want. Because we as human beings, we have this ability to bring about things which we have in our consciousness. So the black race, when you look at all the various champions in the world, somebody made an experiment and gave two students the same amenities, a black student and a white student in America, I think it was. And it turned out that on a level playing field, the black student comes out on top. When you look at all the various competitive activities in the world, like this 100 meters, 200 meters, the heavyweight boxing, whatever, generally speaking, the one who comes out on top is the black. They say, no, that's because that's violence. But when the thing is applied to golf, when a black man gets involved, then there's a tiger in the woods. So why is it that the blacks have been stigmatized? For the same reason that in a football match, when you have a very good player, you have to send 2 or 3 to mark that player in order to prevent him from actually achieving anything. So the blacks have been targeted in the world in order to dump them down and allow the rest of the world to benefit from their resources. Africans must understand that they are never going to leave us alone. Our cohesion, our mutual love for ourselves must be so strong enough to withstand all the attempts at destabilization and confrontation which might be created from outside. We've just heard about the Congo, and that's somebody apologizing. How about compensating all those whose hands were chopped off and so on? Nobody's talking about that. The Congo right now, even after all what they've done, still contains a subsurface worth estimated at $24 trillion. The amount of wealth in the Congo was so high that some of the officials in America tried to use it as a leverage in order to print the dollar when the Fed collapsed. Because there's a great financial crisis going on in the world now. So as long as this wealth is there, people are always going to fight for it, and that fight will take proxy fights amongst Africans. We don't have enough love among ourselves. We don't show enough value to human beings and enough cohesion to understand that our mutual relationship is far more important than material acquisition. But of course, they've indoctrinated us to think that you're a real person when you drive a car of 120 million, when you live in a big mansion plated in gold, when you've got so many billion in the Swiss bank account. All that is illusion. That is all illusory. When you look at history and look at those who had made a strong impact in history, Jesus Christ, how much did he have in the bank? Mahatma Gandhi, how much did he have in the bank? Nelson Mandela, how much did he have in the bank? Thomas Sankara, and the list goes on. If we have not been able to learn from these examples in history, then I think we really have a problem. So now when you talk of the truth, that's again another problem. What is the truth? The truth is a relative thing. Each person has the level of truth he can understand. That is why I've always said that the truth is like a point at the center of a circle. And different points of view are directed to that truth from every spot on the circumference of the circle. One person is looking at the truth from this direction, another person is looking from another direction, and they are looking at the same truth, but it might appear to be different. We must have that understanding in Africa and understand that at every stage, let us use the truth which can help us. Now, the truth will change with time. In the days of colonialism, they colonized us. They gave us the impression that all our own spiritual activities were of the devil, and only they had the truth. We swallowed that and destroyed all our cultures, traditions, and today we're beginning to try to catch up on what had been happening in the past because we realize we've lost our identity. There's nothing wrong with becoming a Muslim, as long as you look at the religion and you take on the values of the religion as an African. In other words, you look at the direction they're looking at and you add that to those elements of your African culture, which enables you to identify yourself as an African and feel proud of who you are.
Sheikh, maybe you land here before,
okay.
so that I give the mic to the other people.
Okay, right.
Because some of our viewers are writing to say that it will be good for us here to be able to fact check some of the facts that you're bringing on your table, some of the allegations that you're bringing on the table, which according to some viewers, they refer to them as just conspiracies which we cannot fact check or prove. For example, the trip to Antarctica, and I mean, you might be suggesting that there could be some aliens living there in the Antarctica, or some other things that you were saying, which to like what the presence of germs in condoms. So these are some of the things that some of our viewers are saying that it could be just, these are maybe just conspiracies because we cannot really fact check them.
Right.
What do you have to tell them?
Yes. I like to tell them that there was a certain operation which was launched by the CIA a long time ago called Operation Mockingbird. In this operation, they set up a system where they controlled directly or indirectly the narrative in most of the important media in the world, as well as the educational system. So you're not going to come out with any information which is damaging to those who control and expect that that will be validated outside. We are coming in the world to the situation where many of the so-called conspiracies will soon come out as facts. As the evil people fail. A long time ago, I mentioned about AIDS being something fabricated from the laboratory. It was called a conspiracy. And today, many people acknowledge that as they can see what is happening. So let them stop trying to analyze the truth only intellectually.
Thank you.
But let them go also with their intuition and look in their spirit, and they will going to see what is right.
Thank you, Sheikh. I get to Ndiwum-Imam, one of the truths. Are we right to say that? Is it truth to say that independence completely decolonized African countries and put an end to the European exploitation of Africa? Is that the truth as we are taught in our schools today?
Well, you don't need to be a scientist to know that that's a fat lie. And you don't need to be a political scientist to know that it's a very fat lie. But I will beckon on you to differ, to shift a bit from that question. You know, because if I were to go into that question, I will still be going to attack the Western world for telling truth. But I want to shift it to Africa and on African leaders. You know, most lies are told in Africa during elections. Most lies are told in Africa during election by our criminals who call themselves politicians. 80% of them who do not have what it takes to put the population at ease, socially, economically, and politically. So they come out with these lies. Now, when we are even talking about truth, the first question should be, who should speak the truth? When and how? Is it the politicians? Is it the religious men? Is it the average man or the middle man? We should start from there. First part, can a politician say a truth? The answer is no. Because in politics, there is no permanent friendship, but there is permanent interest. That's one. Religiously, can we expect the religious men to speak the truth? No. With the numerous scandals in Africa perpetrated by the religious men, I am not saying that all of them are the same. There are few who have distinguished themselves. I can talk about Reverend Emmanuel-Co-Founder in Cameroon. There are a few of them who still have that courage to speak the truth. But the other question now is, they speak the truth. For how long are they able to stick to the truth? That's another question mark. Now, the middleman is where I center my analysis. Because the politician wants a post, he wants a position, he will certainly tell a lie to canvass for votes to gain that position. A religious man, you know, with a proliferation of religious bodies in Africa, we have religious economists who are planting churches here and there for their private gains, for their personal gains. So you wouldn't expect truth from such people. Now, my argument or my analysis based on the middleman. The middleman sees everything. He or she has what it takes to speak the truth. But how do you speak truth in Africa in hunger? Because 80% of Africans are dying and they are wallowing in hunger. How do you speak truth in Africa in poverty, knowing that you can be bought over by a politician? You know the common slang in Cameroon, the slogan of bread and sardine that has brought over the conscience of many people to vote for people. They were not the right people and they were voted. Now, how do you speak the truth in a continent where in most of the countries, when you speak the truth, the fear of imprisonment hangs over your head. Torture hangs over your head. I mean, fear of repression has made the middleman to either go silent or to seal his mouth or to tell a lie because he has been bought over to tell this lie. Deep in his or her mind or heart, he or she knows it is not the truth. How do you tell a lie or a truth in a continent where your life is manipulated by those who fit you? This has caused a lot of disunity in Africa. And now, looking into the political class, if our political leaders were to tell us the truth, Africa would have been next to heaven today, Boh Elvis. When you look at countries like Cote d'Ivoire, remember that most African conflict stems from the denial of such conflicts. And that denial is what? Falsehood, which is the opposite of truthfulness. If Ouattara and Gbagbo have to wash their dirty leniencies in the public, going right to ICJ or whatsoever, it means that at one point, one of them wanted to use lie to triumph over the other. And since the truth could not come out, they had to go somewhere. Now, I cannot talk and fail to mention my country, Cameroon. You know, there are a lot of things in Cameroon. Even the history of Cameroon has been falsified. That's a lie. The history you and I were taught in school was an academic history. It was not the political history of Cameroon. And today, you discover that we have war in almost everywhere in Africa, including Cameroon, because those manning power has refused to speak truth. And you know, like the Bible or the Holy Bible puts it, say the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It is time for Africa to speak the truth within themselves and not without themselves.
Thank you, Ndiwum. Well, Kediah Malangfe, you have the floor now. I want to ask you this question. Are we speaking the truth if we say that some African countries are run like private property, which is eventually going to be transferred to sons in the name of political dynasties? Is this a truth or a lie?
Depending on the context, you know, because when you look at Great Britain, that's what is happening there. Even Congo, when we are talking about, is the same thing, where a leader rules and gives to his child to continue, depending on the system that is being used there. In Europe, maybe they came to Africa and implanted the ideology of democracy to make us believe that is the best. But back then in Europe, I think with, when it concerns dynasty, I think it's only France that does not have royalty per se, that covers the entire country. However, I am okay with you. And your question still goes to what I'm saying. French African countries. French African countries do have problems. It is also true that majority of presidents that have ruled Africa, that their parents were once president, we have them in the English countries in Africa, but actually not in the practical perspective like in the French system, where you go to Guinea Equatorial, the father is president, the son is already vice president, and constitutionally the heir to the father if the father is no more. Go to a country like Chad, where Idris Deby died and his son automatically, that was groomed through the channel of military, and he had a great title there, and immediately his father died, he took over. We can say the same with what is happening in Congo, Gabon, and the rest. You realize that it is a characteristic of the French African country,
and in Cameroon we seem to have a movement,
which is of course a program by the French.
And in Cameroon we have a movement, of course, it's news, the Frankists that is mobilizing.
You see, I did political science, and I would love to talk about political party. For now, there is no political party. It's just a movement like that of my co-panelist, Mr. Ndiwum, that also have a movement to sensitize Africans all over. So I would not like to talk about movement. I'll talk about political party, because movement don't take power, but political party do. So if Mr. Frank is having a political party, then at that time we could debate about his interests. And if he has a political party, then I will applaud him that he's following a democratic process, because the other president I just cited that took over presidency didn't have the political party. They were just channeled by their parents to go to power immediately. So if he's having a political party, I will not have a problem with him. The president of Kenya, his grandfather ruled, Goodluck Jonathan Azikiwe, we also know who his grandfather was, and in all over Africa. But in the case of French Africa, it is a channel program. It's just programmed like when the father is dying, everybody knows automatically that the son will become president, without caring if these children have the administrative skill to be able to manage a country, if they have the potential. But we realize that most of them, their children are rascals, and they come, they take over, and the country move the way it is moving. One of the questions you asked my co-panelists about the issue of independence, if it is a true or it is a lie. It is true, 100% true, that we had independence and paper were being signed and flags were being exchanged and people move into the streets of Africa to say it is a new dawn. But unfortunately, we realize that colonialism was 100% better than neo-colonialism, because neo-colonialism is a total disaster where mechanisms have been put in place by the West to control the African continent. We talk about Francophonie, we talk about Commonwealth. Those are channels put in place by the West to be able to manage Africa and exploit their resources. We have channels like currencies that are being used by French African countries, where it is being determined by the West how it is being managed. We also have currencies like we'll talk, even generally, they will tell you that how is a currency, the value of a currency decided. They will tell you that it is the level of import and export. Then the question I always ask, the country with the highest currency, more than 1,300, I think is the Kuwait dinar. What does Kuwait export? What do they produce with regards to what the European Union produce and export? Why? How come they have 650 and the other person have 1,000 something? That's the total mafia. So the enslavement now is psychological. Where they come, they look for one person to turn against the other person to be able to exploit. However, I'm one of those scholars that I believe that I should not hang on the West. I should not accuse the West. The problem is back home. They use us to exploit us. Why is this possible? One, because they colonized us and they implanted many culture in us. Like for instance, we'll talk about this one is French, this one is Portuguese, this one is this. And this has been a channel that these people have used to create division among Africa so that they can be able to carry out their act of economic exploitation, social discrimination, and political domination in the international scene, where you talk about the monetary fund and the rest. It is a channel that they have put in place so that we can come back instead like children that are still creeping. So you realize that the independence is just a farce, but what is actually happening now is even worse than colonialism. Because even in colonialism, I will tell you that there are Africans that were present in French assembly, because Africa was considered as an overseas territory there. We had Africans in French, in English African country that could go to Britain and present their problems in the House of Representatives there. But what is happening now? What is happening now is what we call mafia.
Thank you, Kediah.
We are in a continent, we don't know how our natural resources are being exploited. Our education is determined by the West. Our religion was still brought by the West. They'll tell you that somebody came and died for us. His name is Jesus Christ. We need to close all industries and open churches and become pastors so that when we pray, God will give us job. That is the mentality of religion implanted in us. And if you can remember vividly, you realize that after the 400 years of slavery, they brought Christianity as a tool to convince the African people to keep them under perpetual colonization, which they have decided to say, okay, modernization, let's not say colonization, let's say they are independent. If you go back to history, you will see the various names that they have been giving us. That continent, underdeveloped, and I even think now they have given us a title of emerging nations. Those are the barbaric nature these guys have put in place. So I'll tell you that there is no independence for now.
Thank you, Kediah Malangfe. Of course, I give the mic to you now, Franklin Z, to talk about politicians, as many citizens complain that election seems to be of no use in Africa, as after the election of even those in the opposition, when they come to power, you don't seem to have the impression that power has changed hands, as the same music continues. I want to get your own analysis on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boh Elvis, once more for giving me the opportunity to express myself on what I think the politicians' role in our development has to do. But you permit me, as I say, to a little bit elaborate on what I have to say, because in as much as I have to talk about the political aspect of it, it is equally in part of what I have to say. So just permit me to elaborate on that. First of all, as we initially started, our topic of the day was about truth and the liberation of Africa. Because the essential element I withdraw from that was about truth and liberation of Africa. Truth is a very vast word. Many of us have said it here, like our Imam said, our Sheikh really said, that it is like a circle with a center, people coming all converging from different perspectives. So we all have our own opinions about what truth is all about. And everybody can have his own interpretation, which is right. I wouldn't give that. But me, I'll focus more on what we call the human behavioral pattern. Because be it political, be it financial, be it economic, whatsoever we have to do on earth, it has to do with good or bad. The final output has to either be good or bad, success or failure, positive or negative. So that brings me now to why I have to focus on the human behavioral pattern, because with the human behavioral pattern, it is, no matter the ideologies you have in front of you, the person with the best strategy or the person with the best design or conception, in as much as the executioner of that project will not have a moral update on proper moral standards, that project would always be a failure. And that is what we have to work for from ourselves. The problem of Africa, in as much as we will have to accuse the Western world, comes and stems first and foremost from us, Africa. We need to work on ourselves. If we cannot have one spirit, one mouth, then everything we do and expect the whites to come and do will never be a success. So we need to start first of all from ourselves. And I'll analyze this point on three aspects. The human behavioral pattern. What is our own responsibility as individuals to liberate Africa? What is the responsibility of our authorities to liberate Africa? And what is the responsibility of the Western world? First of all, to take about our own aspect, there was this Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa always had this famous saying. She said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. That is, if you want to change the world, we have to go home and love our people. You have to go home, he has to go home, I have to go home and love our people. When they talk about loving your people here, it doesn't mean that you should go, because the tendency about love here is like you satisfy yourself personally and that shows your love. It means you have to be righteous in your actions. You have to be righteous in your deeds. You have to be righteous. When you are taking decision, you are making yourself felt. You have to take into consideration your immediate environment. You don't take aspects into life limiting yourself only to yourself. And that is the problem with the African man. We are still more of self-centered than general interest. That is what is peculiar with us. It's easy for some, because the tendency with Africans is we try to blame others for our problems. But the problem is not others. The problem starts from us. It's easy to say this man has not done good, this man has not done bad. But in reality, when you see the day-to-day living of each African, you discover that if this man was even given that position, he would do worst. All of us here, we have our different backgrounds, we have our different responsibilities, probably head of families, head of offices or whatsoever. How do you as an individual, where you find yourself, how do you take to manage the people who are under you? You can even be the elder brother that leaves the house and gives you a 1,000 that's shared with your younger ones. How do you take to share it with them? You as the manager, what do you do at your job site? Do you take decisions? Do you give promotions or whatsoever based on tribalism, favoritism or whatsoever? It's easy to say this person has not done it correct, but what are we doing at our own level? There was a priest who once told me that nul ne peut dire qu'il n'est pas bandit tant qu'il n'a jamais eu la chance de voler. Mais celui qui a eu la chance de voler et ne l'a pas fait. Some people think they are better than others because they have never done what others have done. But it's because they have not had the opportunities to be exposed to such challenges. So we have to work first of all on ourselves. We have to be able to understand that life is not centered about ourselves. We need to think about our immediate environment. The decision I am making, how does it affect my neighbor? Am I thinking of his well-being? We say the whites practice racism. What is tribalism? That's a diminished form of racism. What is favoritism? Diminished form of racism. It's easy to see them because they show it on media. But here we practice tribalism. We practice racism. And that is all that is still racism. We give particular favors to particular people for their particularities. How do we live from that? Okay, sorry, I'm taking much of your time.
We'll have 4 minutes to end the show.
Yes, I will talk about the authorities shallowly, but about the authorities, I'll say, when you look even back right from history, you discover that what was slave trade? How did slave trade occur? The white man did not come and pick an African to go and keep in his country. It were the kings of Africa who sold their strong elements to the whites, which means, first of all, the African man mentality is very soft. He does not always put the general interest at heart. He thinks of his personal gain for whiskey, for what? He takes his good elements and sends them. That is right from history. Coming back to today, our leaders, do they protect our interest? They have been voted by the people to defend our interests. Are they doing that? Take a simple analysis on corruption. I sat one day and just took 1 billion, let me say probably 1 billion naira. You take 1 billion naira, divide by 100, it gives you probably 10 million. Then 10 million again divided by 100, that gives you 100,000. So I said with 1 billion, you can take 1 billion and give to 100 people for 100 months. And it will give you, it will be 100,000 per individual. Which means with 1 million, if you just have to share 1 billion rather, you call 100 individuals. Every month, come and see me, I will give you 100,000. It will make 100 months. That is 8.3 months. 3 years. That is approximately 8 years, 4 months. That is what 1 billion can do. And if you hear that a leader takes fabulous sums of money, how many civilians is he killing? Will you go and carry the local man who goes and steal markets and burn him on tires? Is that man more wicked than the leader who embezzles such? We have had fabulous sums of money. It's not the white man who comes and does that for you. We are the ones in Africa who are doing that. We have the resources to manage, but are we protecting our interests? No, we are not. That is where we fail as Africans. We don't defend our interests. We have lawyers. We have this person who has to protect the interests. We have what look like Chinese people. The Chinese people are all over Africa today. Look the way they treat our citizens.
Thank
they
you.
treat them. I have taken much of your time.
so we have to learn. Thank you so
Okay.
much. You know, actually, I know that Sheikh too is not happy because he has not been able to really, even Emmanuel. But of course, you know that today we had to talk about these news developments that were really dear to the heart of our viewers. They want to also comment on it. And, you know, we have to also respect the views of the request from our viewers, since they're the ones who pay us. I mean, our viewers are the ones who pay us. So we are about to end. Let us take some messages that are coming in. Hello, guys. This program is interesting. Rebroadcast when and time. Tuesday, rebroadcast on my Media Prime at 4:30 p.m. rebroadcast time. Okay, and that means greetings to the panel. I am Mosima Obes, writing from Boya. I like the topic and I enjoy the way Alaji makes his analysis. My question is, can Alaji, apart from this medium, tell us other means that we can fight and put in place these deceits that has held Africa backward for long, that can fight and put in place measures that can dedicate these deceits that have held Africa backward for so long? That is Mosima Obes. Of course, I'm going to link you up with Alaji so that you can ask him those questions, because we don't really have time now for him to go into details on that. How can we talk about the truth when our present leaders only think about self-interest instead of general interest? Many African leaders do not think about moving Africa forward, but how to stay in power till thy kingdom come. Winka Edwin, writing us from Banjul. Hello. Greetings, Boh Elvis. I like the program. The choice of panelists is also good. We are happy to see young people being awakened for the betterment and the unity of Africa. I am Rex Likabjo from Limbola. I am a Pan-Africanist. Okay, Rex, we are going to get to you as you've requested. So those are some of the messages that we have received today. Of course, let me get the last panel, just the last talk for you to say hi. Ndiwum. Sweet things sometimes do not last for long. Unfortunately, we are about to end 90 minutes in Africa. I want to thank you so much for coming, Ndiwum.
It's always a pleasure, but I would like to say that truth in itself is relative. So the topic is not yet over. I think the part 2 of the topic shall come back because truth is relative. We actually had a lot of facets where we could examine truth from bed. Time constraint. So
Sheikh,
we love you, our viewers.
Sheikh, we are going to come back to this topic, and this time without any news review as we had today, just the topic.
What I can say is Africans should try to be up to date. Right now, you have 5,915 patents in the U.S. Patenting Office, which was classified top secret, which is about to be released. Some revolutionary technologies are going to be coming out. The American Congress has made a hearing recently where they, after the Pentagon published a document of over 1,300 pages, revealing many objects which have been identified in the sky since 1950. And Congress came out with the conclusion that those objects were not from planet Earth. I'm not talking about something conspiracy. This is the publication of the American Congress after hearing nearly 400 witnesses who came to testify with videos accompanying. Africans should understand what is happening. And that said, my young panelists summarized my words very well. All I can say is what he was eventually saying is Africans should raise their spiritual vibration and become service to others oriented rather than service to self. If we cannot do that, all the other talking and actions will lead to nothing.
Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you so much, Franklin Dzenchung, for coming. This is your first time on the panel, and of course we are encouraging many more people that are watching us who want to come and talk to you. You see that Franklin Dzenchung was very brilliant in his analysis. I want to thank you so much for coming, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here, and I hope that we'll have more chances to elaborate. As my co-panelist I said, the topic's not yet over. We still have much aspect, and I did enjoy the topic. And I think we need to reawaken our spirit, work on our personalities, because that's the main aspect that permit Africa to go. That is what will bring us. It's not the Westerners. We have been crying for so long for Western to help us, but they have not been coming. So if we don't start with ourselves, then it will never come. Thank you.
Kediah Malangfe, political analyst and communicator with Cameroon's ruling party. I want to thank you for coming, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here to share our own views on happenings. The three tribes of Nigeria are going for the election, anxiously waiting for their various vice presidents to know how the election will come out, and special greetings to the father of the nation of the Republic of Cameroon.
Thank you. This message coming in from Dr. Wesley. He says, scholarly studies have shown that the story that African kings sold their subjects is not entirely true. The Europeans hired professional slave raiders who raided villages in inner Africa. That's from Dr. Wesley Angone. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much. I want to thank our producers, our cream of producers, led by Eli, Nolinga, Ewane, and my brilliant cameraman and the studio manager right here with me in the studio. I want to thank my guests for coming, Franklin Dzenchung, Emmanuel-Co-Founder, who is now the co-founder of New Era Youth for Africa, Kediah Malangfe, who is a political analyst, Sheikh Mohammed Ngubong, who is a Muslim scholar and Imam. I want to thank all of you for coming to the program, and all those that are contributing through our WhatsApp group. Of course, as I said, you can join us. You can be a guest on 90 Minutes in Africa. Wherever you find yourself in Africa, you just write to me using the number you find on your screen. We add you to our WhatsApp group, and we invite you, we monitor you for some time, and then we invite you to come and talk in our show. Today's program, 90 Minutes in Africa, was coordinated by Kum Leonard and supervised by Brian Tambe. I am Boh Elvis, thanking you so much for watching, and see you next week for another edition, God willing. Bye-bye.